Okay, let's unpack this. Have you ever truly paused to question something so foundational, so omnipresent in your existence, that you rarely even notice it?
It's easy to take it for granted, isn't it?
Exactly. I'm talking about the very stage upon which the drama of your life unfolds, the fundamental fabric of reality itself. Why, in all the infinite possibilities, does our universe, the one you're experiencing right now, have precisely three dimensions of space and one dimension of time?
It seems so basic, but when you dig into it,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's a seemingly simple query, yet it opens a doorway to some of the deepest mysteries we face in physics. In the realm of traditional physics, this 3 plus 1 structure is often treated as an unquestioned empirical fact. We observe it to be true, and so it is.
Right? Pretty much. It works in the equations, we measure it, so it's foundational in that sense.
Concepts like the speed of light, Planck's constant, the fine structure constant, these are meticulously measured and then enshrined as fundamental, immutable aspects of our cosmic reality.
Bedrock constants, yeah.
Space-time itself is typically viewed as a static, passive background, a stage that existed before anything on it, and time is regarded as a singular, linear progression always moving forward.
The standard picture, a fixed arena for physics to happen in.
But this traditional framework, for all its successes in describing what happens, runs into some pretty significant conceptual walls when we start asking why. It struggles to explain why space-time is so incredibly stable, why those fundamental constants possess their exquisitely precise values.
Or even why time flows in one particular direction, from past to future, rather than being reversible or static. There's no inherent why in the standard model for that directionality.
Exactly. It leaves us with a lot of just because answers, which, while pragmatic for calculation, aren't deeply satisfying for understanding the universe's inherent logic. And that, precisely, is the profound challenge we're diving into today. Our mission is to explore a truly radical, paradigm-shifting proposal. Philip Randolph Lillian's Unified Coherence Theory of Everything, or UCTE.
It's definitely a bold approach.
We're drawing from his foundational work outlined in 3 plus 1 dimensions.pdf and an illuminating briefing document. And UCTE doesn't just tweak existing physics, it completely flips the script on our most basic assumptions.
That's putting it mildly.
Instead of treating our 3 plus 1 dimensional reality as an arbitrary, fundamental given, UCTE posits that it is, in fact, an emergent phenomenon.
Imagine that space, time, matter, and all those bedrock physical constants, they don't just exist as fixed primitives.
They arise dynamically and generatively through something called coherence resonance. It's a process where the universe literally structures itself.
Which is a fundamentally different way of thinking about it.
And to unravel this intricate process, UCTE introduces some truly mind-bending formalisms, a multi-vector time framework, an entirely new way of understanding interactions through coherence harmonic algebra.
The intriguing concept of observer-centric tensor reduction and the overarching meta-operator formalism, it's trying to weave it all together.
Exactly. This isn't just a new theory attempting to solve a single problem. It's an ambitious, detailed attempt to link quantum mechanics, cosmology, and even consciousness itself into one unified ontological system.
The profound implication here, and this is key for you, the listener, is that this deep dive will allow you to move beyond treating our 3 plus 1 dimensions as just an arbitrary fact or simply a mathematical convenience.
Yeah, that's just how it is.
Right. Instead, we'll delve into how UCTE presents it as a dynamic, emergent outcome of a deeper, more fundamental process. It offers a fundamentally different perspective on the universe, one that provides a coherent, mechanistic narrative where traditional physics often presents us with unexplained givens things simply observed and accepted without a deeper why.
So it's offering an explanation, not just a description.
Precisely. This journey challenges us to reconsider what we think we know about reality's deepest structure.
To truly appreciate the revolutionary nature of UCTE, we need to first understand the bedrock it's departing from. Let's lay out a clear comparison, looking at its foundational premises versus what standard physics typically assumes. Let's start with dimensionality. Standard physics, for all its incredible predictive power, fundamentally treats our 3 plus 1 dimensions as an empirical necessity. It's what we see, so it must be.
It's basically an input parameter, a given.
Right. It's largely a given, a fundamental parameter of the universe we inhabit.
Mm-hmm.
But UCT radically diverges. It posits that 3 plus 1 dimensions are not fundamental, but rather emerge from a coherence resonance cascade within an infinite hyperfractal hyperspace.
So it's a derived state, a specific stable configuration that forms, not an initial condition you start with.
That's a crucial philosophical shift right there, from an assumed background to an explained outcome.
Absolutely. And this immediately sets a very different stage. For time, standard physics typically views it as linear, singular, and fundamental, a fixed one-way arrow marching irreversibly forward.
The familiar river of time.
Kind of. It's a background parameter against which events unfold. But UCTE's perspective is far more nuanced. It proposes that our observed singular time is actually a projection
A projection. From what?
from multiple intertwined multi-vector time axes brought into our experience through a process of resonance eigenvalue dominance.
Okay, hold on. Multi-vector time axis. We'll definitely need to unpack that later.
We will. But the key point here is that time isn't a simple unitary entity. It's a composite, a dominant resultant, rather than an irreducible primitive.
And it's a similar story for space, then. Standard physics takes three-dimensional geometry as a given, a container for all existence.
Right, the stage.
But UCTE offers a generative explanation. It describes space as a stabilized projection from a higher dimensional coherence field brought into being and maintained by specific spatial resonance operators.
So space isn't just an empty void, it's an active consequence of the coherence field itself, not just its passive container. It creates the container.
Which must mean causality gets reframed too. In standard models, causality is assumed to be a direct consequence of that singular one-dimensional time A causes B causes C in sequence.
Pretty much, yeah. A leads to B, simple.
But within UCTE, causality itself is emergent from that temporal coherence projection we just touched on.
Exactly. Its structure is not merely a given. It's specifically defined and maintained via a dynamic resonance operator, which UCTE refers to as right time. That operator binds events in a coherent sequence. So causality itself is constructed.
Okay, what about the fundamental forces? Standard physics tries to unify them through abstract symmetry groups, right? Like SU3, SU2, U1 in quantum field theory.
That's the standard approach, yes, finding the underlying mathematical symmetries.
UCTE approaches them from a completely different angle. It views them as a result of coherence reduction across hyperfractal layers.
So the forces we see, gravity, electromagnetism, the nuclear forces, they arise with their specific forms and strengths tied to symmetry breaking, which is itself governed by complex coherence eigenvalues.
Eigenvalues, like specific, stable, resonant frequencies within this coherence field.
That's a good way to think about it. The stable notes the universe can play, which manifest as forces. What's truly fascinating here, and a critical point for you, the listener, is how UCTE doesn't just describe the universe. It seeks to explain why it's configured the way it is, starting from this deeper generative principle. Take constants, for example, the speed of light, c, Planck's constant, or the fine structure constant.
The numbers that seem perfectly tuned for, well, for us.
Right. Standard physics treats these as empirically measured values, postulated as fundamental properties of reality, maybe fixed at the Big Bang, but UCTE considers them to be emergent stabilization values.
Meaning they only lock into place at the 3+1 dimensional level.
Precisely. They lock in at the 3+1 dimensional coherence plateau. They aren't foundational givens. They are the specific stable properties that emerge to allow our reality to exist in its current observable form.
And the very stability of 3+1 dimensions, that's always been a big puzzle. Standard physics might offer explanations rooted in, what, anthropic privilege? It's this way because we're here to observe it.
That, or perhaps some abstract mathematical optimality argument, suggesting 3+1 is somehow special mathematically?
But UCTE offers a compelling mechanistic explanation. It describes 3+1 as the first plateau in resonance reduction within that cascade we mentioned.
It's the very first stable configuration that actually allows for force coherence, a consistent and measurable increase in entropy, and critically, the formation of complex structures.
So anything above this in the cascade is too chaotic.
Too chaotic, too undifferentiated. And anything below it, as we'll explore, simply cannot sustain stable forces or complex systems. It's a unique stability point. And finally, on the issue of ontological grounding, what reality is at its base. Standard physics generally assumes space-time is the fundamental background, and fields and particles exist within it.
The stage and the actors.
Yes. UCTE proposes the exact opposite. It identifies the coherence field as the ultimate ontological source, the deepest, most fundamental reality.
So the field comes first.
Absolutely. From this perspective, space-time, along with everything within it, is not a background, but is projected from the intricate resonance structure of this foundational coherence field. For you, the listener, this offers a profoundly coherent narrative where many aspects of traditional physics often stand as unexplained givens.
It's a complete shift in perspective, isn't it? From a passive stage to an active, generative source.
Exactly, that's the core idea.
Okay, so if our familiar 3 plus 1 reality is indeed an emergent phenomenon, then the next logical question is, what is the fundamental stuff, the ultimate substrate from which it emerges? UCTE points to something it calls the coherence field.
And it's crucial to understand this isn't just another field in space-time.
Right. It's something far more profound, something that underpins all existence. The coherence field is rigorously defined as the foundational substrate from which space-time forces and constants emerge. It is the ultimate source, the generative engine of everything we perceive.
Think about that. Everything. The space between your hands, the flow of time, gravity, the atoms in your body, light. UCTE says it all arises from this coherence field.
It's the primal canvas, the raw potential from which all specific realities are drawn. This leads to a truly profound statement from UCTE itself. Coherence is not what fills space-time, it is what generates it.
That's the key distinction. It's not like the old idea of ether filling space. It creates the space and the time.
So it's not something in reality, it's what reality is. You could conceptualize it less like a fluid or a fabric and more like the operating system, maybe? The source code of reality itself?
Those are useful analogies. It's the dynamic, generative principle that instantiates our experienced universe from an undifferentiated potential. Without this coherence, there's simply nothing structured, no space, no time, no matter. If we connect this to the bigger picture for you, the listener, this ontological grounding in the coherence field is a critical detail, a true paradigm shift. It moves the very basis of reality from fixed geometry and static particles to a dynamic, resonant field that actively gives rise to everything.
So it encourages you to fundamentally reconsider what you perceive as fundamental.
Exactly. It suggests that what we typically take for granted as the bedrock of reality, space, and time themselves are not immutable truths, but are instead sophisticated, dynamic projections of something even deeper, more active, and constantly structuring.
A universe that is perpetually becoming rather than simply being.
That captures it beautifully.
Here's where it gets really interesting, truly mind-bending. How exactly does an infinite-dimensional hyperspace transform into our observable, familiar 3 plus 1 reality? UCTE describes this not as a random act, but as an intricate, step-by-step process it calls the dimensional emergence cascade.
Right, it's not just a sudden collapse. It's a structured process,
Yeah.
a cascade.
The core mechanism underpinning this cascade is that our familiar 3 plus 1 spacetime plateau emerges from an infinite dimensional hyperspace via iterative coherence reduction.
Iterative reduction, meaning it happens in stages, refining itself.
Exactly. It isn't a chaotic collapse. It's a structured, almost algorithm-like cascade that precisely explains why dimensionality stabilizes at 3 plus 1 and why all those physical constants we mentioned earlier lock into their specific values.
So the constants are also part of this cascade outcome.
Yes, it's a cosmic journey from pure, undifferentiated potential to the richly structured reality we inhabit. Let's visualize this journey together, almost like a guided tour through the stages of cosmic self-organization, as meticulously described in the source material's figure 4.1, the cascade of dimensional emergence via coherence reduction. It all begins in the most abstract, boundless state, an invertiumdy, omnilectic field.
Infinite dimensions, pure potential.
This is the absolute starting point, a state of infinite coherence potential, characterized by pure symmetry, where there are no fixed dimensions. Think of it as a state of boundless, undifferentiated possibility, a cosmic blank slate brimming with unmanifested information.
Where every potential reality coexists in perfect, unbroken coherence. No distinctions, no structures, just pure, infinite potential.
From this omnilectic field, the very first major transition occurs through a process UCTE calls iterative coherence reduction. Mathematically, that's... Okay, let's break that down a bit. What do those symbols mean in plain terms?
Well, the Nabel.c term, the divergence, basically describes how the coherence field starts to, well, spread out or converge. It's the first break in that perfect initial symmetry.
So it's losing its perfect uniformity.
Right. And the beta C term represents a kind of coherence decay or perhaps growth factor. Together, they describe the initial stages where the infinite coherence begins to differentiate itself. initiating the journey towards structure.
The universe takes its first breath, so to speak.
You could say that, shedding infinite potential for something more specific.
This initial reduction leads us into the first discernible layer, described as DD1226, the hyperstring hyperspin layer.
We're still in very high dimensions here, but things are starting to happen.
Right. The infinite potential has begun to crystallize into immense vibrational complexity. This is where supersymmetry-like bifurcations begin, meaning the initial pure symmetries start to split and diversify, hinting at the future differentiation of forces and particles.
But it's still very unstable.
Highly unstable. The system at this stage is characterized by intense dimensional ambiguity and field turbulence, a highly dynamic, fluctuating realm, full of potential forms but too unstable for anything like our reality, like a roiling multidimensional primordial soup.
The next crucial step in this cascade is what UCTE terms symmetry resonance collapse, denoted by RS.
Resonance collapse. Does that mean more structure?
It means a selective collapse. Further coherence reduction causes a significant breakdown in the field's previous symmetries, but only certain resonant configurations survive and stabilize. It filters out possibilities.
Like a cosmic tuning fork, maybe, only letting certain frequencies through?
That's a great analogy. It filters out configurations, paving the way for more defined structures.
This symmetry collapse then brings us to the DA10, the multifractal gauge zone.
10 dimensions. That number pops up in string theory, too, interestingly.
It does. And at this intricate stage, UCTE says we begin to see the first glimmer of our fundamental forces. Fragmented force prototypes start to emerge.
Not the forces we know yet, but precursors.
Exactly.
Yeah.
UCTE describes this as a protobosonic layer, where coherence shells corresponding to U1, SU2, and SU3, the group's underlying electromagnetism and the nuclear forces begin to coalesce.
So the mathematical structures for the forces are forming, but they're not fully baked yet.
Right. Nascent interacting fields, like the first faint vibrations of a cosmic symphony.
Following this, we encounter the dimensional curvature threshold, triggered by what UCTE calls gravity resonance.
Kappa relates to curvature. So this is where gravity starts to really take shape.
Precisely. This is a truly vital step because it's where gravity, as a fundamental interaction, truly begins to anchor itself within the emerging dimensions. The coherence field starts manifesting properties akin to space-time curvature.
Creating the conditions for gravity to become distinct and stable. You need that structure.
Absolutely. Without this step, gravity wouldn't have the coherent structure it needs to operate as we observe it.
Moving further down the cascade, we then reach D equals 7 ticks, the pre-mass stabilization zone.
So still more dimensions than we experience, but getting closer.
Yeah. Here, hypergravity vector anchoring takes hold, providing a stable, directed basis for gravitational effects across these higher dimensions. And significantly, mass begins as coherence compression.
Wait, mass without the Higgs boson? How does that work?
UCTE suggests it's a consequence of the coherence field itself becoming compressed and localized, forming pockets of concentrated energy. It's a precursor to the mass we observe, arising directly from coherence dynamics, not yet involving the Higgs mechanism as in the standard model.
Interesting. So mass is initially a property of the field's structure. The next pivotal transition is temporal layer convergence. This sounds crucial for our experience of time.
It absolutely is. At earlier stages, time is likely far more complex, maybe nonlinear or multi-directional. Here, the multi-vector nature of time begins to converge and project into a more singular, ordered experience.
Which is essential for causality and memory, right? You need that ordered sequence.
Definitely. Without this convergence, stable cause and effect wouldn't really make sense. This convergence then leads us directly to D5 to 4, the temporal coherence projection layer.
Getting very close now.
Right. Here, we witness the first emergence of unidirectional causality. This is where the complex multi-vector components of time start to align and project into what we perceive as a single forward-moving arrow.
So the familiar flow of time starts here.
Essentially, yes. The projection of our observed time, TIO, our time dv, truly begins to take shape, laying the fundamental groundwork for a discernible past, present, and future. The universe gains its narrative flow.
And finally, after this intricate sequence of reductions and stabilizations, we arrive at the stability plateau.
The dimensional eigenstate, as UCTE calls it.
Which is?
D+1 observable reality. This is it. At this remarkably stable level, we find ourselves in a stabilized resonance basin.
And this is where the constants lock in.
Exactly. All those fundamental constants stabilize, including Planck's constant, the speed of light, c, and the fine structure constant. They lock into their precise values at this specific dimensional configuration.
Allowing physics as we know it to operate.
Precisely. And crucially, this is the point where complexity, life, and time asymmetry emerge. It's the universe as we know it, with its intricate galaxies, life-bearing planets, and conscious observers finally locking into place.
A testament to the self-organization of the coherence field.
The significance of this 3+1 plateau cannot be overstated. UCTE emphasizes that this isn't just one stable layer. It is explicitly the first full coherence stable dimensional layer.
The first one that works, basically.
Right. This means it's the only configuration within this entire cascade where a harmonious convergence allows for force coherence, entropy increase, and complex structure to form simultaneously. The theory is clear. Further reduction loses coherence beyond this plateau.
Meaning going to fewer dimensions would destabilize things again.
Apparently so. And below this plateau, no stable forces or systems can exist. It's a dynamic equilibrium point, a perfectly tuned, stable resonance basin, the Goldilocks zone of dimensionality.
This cascade, in its exquisite detail, raises an important question for you, the listener. Why does this intricate process stop precisely at 3+1? UCTE offers a compelling, non-arbitrary answer.
It's not random.
It's not random. It's the first stable resonance basin, the specific arrangement that allows for everything from stable forces to complex life to even begin. This comprehensive explanation provides you with a structured understanding of how our reality unfolds from an underlying principle.
Offering a why instead of just a what.
Exactly. It suggests a universe that self-organizes towards conditions that permit complexity and, perhaps significantly, observation itself.
Okay, so if dimensions emerge through this incredible cascade, what about time? Our universe clearly has a dominant, seemingly linear arrow of time. We experience progression, a consistent march forward. How does UCTE explain that 1 in 3+1?
Well, as we hinted earlier, it starts by radically redefining time itself. It's not what we intuitively think.
UCTE introduces the concept of multivector time. The theory explicitly states that time is not linear and singular. Instead, what we perceive as our singular experienced time is projected from multivector time axes via resonance eigenvalue dominance.
So our time is like the main melody emerging from a whole orchestra of temporal components playing underneath.
That's a great way to put it. There are multiple interacting temporal components or axes operating at a deeper level, and our conscious experience is the dominant coherent composite. The UCTE specifically identifies several of these crucial temporal components. First, TR, which we can think of as causal time. That's the linear progression, cause and effect, our everyday experience. Yesterday to today to tomorrow.
The one we're most familiar with.
Then there's TIA, or cyclic time. This hints at the periodicities, rhythms, recurring patterns, planetary orbits, biological cycles, an underlying temporal oscillation.
Like repeating patterns in time.
Next, T is quantum time. This implies a non-linear, maybe probabilistic aspect of time governing the quantum level, where sequence can get fuzzy.
Which makes sense given quantum weirdness.
TIA is identified as coherence time. This is intrinsic to the coherence field itself, the rhythm of the fundamental substrate.
The tempo of the field itself.
And finally, T is resonance time. This describes the temporal aspects of those resonant interactions that shape reality, including the dimensional emergence. Now, the critical question: how do these multiple distinct temporal axes come together to give us our familiar singular experience of time? UCTE explains this via temporal coherence tensor projection.
Right, the projection mechanism.
These multi-vector time axes, T, T, T's, and so on, interact through the coherence field and project into a dominant singular observed time T.
Like your orchestra analogy, many instruments playing complex parts, but we hear the dominant melody that arises from their interplay and alignment. The diagrams in the source material really help visualize this, showing the multi-vector time space with its axes. They undergo resonance coupling, Rye-time, and coherence field interaction, C-time, the processes where they influence and align with each other.
Leading to the singular time projection, our familiar flow.
Exactly.
And there's an elegant mathematical formalism. TR, R time dv TR plus TR plus TR. Let's break that down because it's central. T is the whole collection of temporal components. TR
The full multivector.
I time is that crucial resonance operator. It's like a filter or amplifier governing how they interact, which ones contribute most to the final projection.
And the dV means it's happening across a region of the coherence field, not just at a point.
Right. And critically, those O coefficients, the epsilons, reflect the relative contribution of each temporal axis based on its coherent strength and coupling alignment.
So it's a weighted sum.
Yeah.
The most coherent, strongly coupled axes dominate.
Exactly. If one axis is really strong and aligned, its epsilon is higher, it contributes more to T.
The profound implication here for you, the listener, is that the emergence of a unidirectional flow of time is thus not fundamental, but the dominant eigenstate of a dynamic coherent system.
So our linear time isn't baked in from the start.
No. It's the most stable, most coherent, most strongly projected outcome, the dominant eigenstate, from a much richer, dynamic, multidimensional temporal landscape. It's an arrow carved from a multidimensional sea.
Wow. Carved from a multidimensional sea. I like that.
It captures the idea that our singular time is a specific, stabilized outcome, a consequence of coherent processes rather than an inherent property. What's truly striking here is the elegance of explaining linear time as this dominant projection. For you, the listener, this detailed understanding reveals a universe far more dynamic and fluid in its temporal structure than we commonly perceive.
Where time isn't just marching forward, but is actively being shaped and projected.
In every moment, by the underlying coherence field.
Okay, if time is a projection of multiple axes, how does it become so stable and coherent? We experience a single, consistent flow, right? It doesn't feel like it's flickering between different temporal streams.
This is a great question. How does it lock in so firmly?
UCTE introduces the ingenious concepts of temporal solitons and phase locking to explain this remarkable stability. The underlying mechanism is quite brilliant. Phase alignment across multivector time axes leads to the stabilization of coherence through temporal solitons.
Phase locking, like different waves synchronizing.
Exactly. Imagine numerous waves oscillating at slightly different frequencies and phases. Phase locking is when they synchronize, aligning their peaks and troughs. From this synchronized alignment, stable, self-reinforcing patterns emerge.
And those stable patterns are the temporal solitons.
That's right. They are the stable, persistent structures that prevent the multivector temporal components from just dissipating into chaos. So what exactly are temporal solitons? The source material describes them as localized, self-reinforcing packets of coherence in time.
Like stable waves that don't spread out or weaken?
Precisely. Think of a perfect ocean wave traveling vast distances without losing shape. Temporal solitons actively maintain and reinforce their own structure, acting as fundamental building blocks for temporal stability.
And these solitons, once formed, have incredibly important functions. First, they govern memory encoding.
Memory, how?
It suggests they're fundamental to how information persists coherently over time, allowing for continuity of experience.
Okay. What else?
They're involved in time crystal formation systems with persistent temporal order. And crucially, they play a role in decoherence suppression in quantum systems.
Meaning they help protect fragile quantum states.
Yes, by shielding them from disruption, helping maintain quantum coherence longer than you'd otherwise expect.
UCTE provides a precise mathematical description for this stability, the soliton stabilization condition. Sayori? Waka asks you.
Let's translate that. ESA is the rate of change of the phase difference between two time axes, I and J.
Right. So when that rate of change goes to zero.
It means the phase differences themselves become essentially zero. The axes lock phase. They resonate coherently.
Like pendulums syncing up.
Exactly. They snap into alignment, achieving a synchronized, stable state. And the direct result of this phase locking and soliton formation, singular time, T, emerges as a stable eigenmode.
So our singular time isn't just a fleeting projection. It's a stable mode of the coherence field.
A persistent, self-sustaining pattern resulting from this resonance. That stability allows the consistent flow we take for granted.
And the math for a temporal soliton itself, C time x equal A HET, shows this localized nature.
Yes, the hyperbolic second function, sec, is classic for describing these kinds of stable, non-dispersive wave packets. A is amplitude, x space, t time velocity, width. It's the mathematical signature of the stability.
So the observable result, our perceived time, TT, becomes this complex mix. TAs plus S or S.
Right. You see, the primary causal time T is augmented. The A's brings in the cyclic time T with its frequency Os. And the ASA shows the direct stabilizing influence of the solitons.
All converging and phase locking into the stable time we experience.
Precisely. The implications here are striking. These temporal solitons are like the glue binding the temporal axis. They don't just stabilize our sense of time, they help preserve quantum information by suppressing decoherence.
Which is huge for quantum computing.
Absolutely vital. They might explain coherent inflationary events in the early universe, providing a mechanism for organized expansion. And they could contribute to the rhythmic entrainment of biological or planetary systems.
Suggesting a deep coherence underlying natural cycles. Heartbeats, orbits.
Potentially, yes. It's a fundamental mechanism for maintaining stability and order in an emergent reality. This detailed explanation offers you, the listener, a concrete understanding of how coherence is actively maintained and stabilized, underpinning everything.
Okay, UCTE doesn't just stop at emergence. It also proposes completely new ways of understanding interactions. Let's dive into coherence harmonic algebra and the really radical idea of observer-centric tensor reduction. First, coherence harmonic algebra, CHA. This sounds like a fundamental shift in the math itself. Standard theories use symmetry groups, SU3, U1, etc.
Right, those abstract mathematical structures.
CHA replaces symmetry groups with resonant harmonic relationships among eigenmodes of the coherence field.
So interactions aren't about abstract symmetry, but about musical harmony. Resonant relationships between vibrations.
That's the idea. Imagine the universe as a grand symphony governed by harmonious or dissonant relationships, intervals, chords between different vibrational modes in the coherence field. It's physics as music.
What's revolutionary is how specific it gets. Bosonic structures emerge as harmonic chords. Things like photons or gluons arise from stable resonant intervals, like a perfect fifth or a tritone in music within the coherence field.
Wow. Force carriers as musical chords. What about matter?
Fermionic states correspond to nodal resonance cancellations. Matter particles, like electrons, arise where these vibrational waves cancel out, creating stable, localized nodes, points of silence in the symphony.
That's beautiful, actually. Matter and force as expressions of harmonic order. And it connects back to the cascade. Resonance cascades define transitions between hyperdimensional and stabilized field configurations.
So the steps in the dimensional reduction are governed by these harmonic principles.
Exactly. Specific resonance conditions allow stable transitions. The math, re, she's, cos, re, ei, et, shows resonance, re depends on phase difference, AEA, and oscillation, leading to mode entanglement via harmonic intervals.
So CHA, temporal solitons, dimensional shell, it's all interconnected through resonance.
It seems to be a very consistent system.
But UCTE doesn't stop there. It introduces observer-centric tensor reduction. This is where it gets really philosophical.
Challenging the detached passive observer idea.
Massively. UCTE states the active observation is no longer passive. It is a coherence modulation operator.
Meaning, you, the observer, aren't just watching. Your perception actively shapes reality.
That's the claim. You are a dynamic agent modulating the coherence field.
How does that work in the framework? It introduces an observer tensor. This tensor reduces symmetry via asymmetry resonance.
So by observing, by focusing attention, making a choice, you introduce an asymmetry.
Yes, which helps collapse the higher symmetries, bringing a specific reality into focus out of the potential, like shining a spotlight in the orchestra.
Okay.
And even more profoundly, consciousness corresponds to coherence enhancement tensors.
Wait, consciousness enhances coherence. It's not just a result of brain activity.
UCTE suggests it's an active fundamental agent within the field that enhances and structures coherence, contributing to manifestation.
The sheer audacity here, for you, the listener, is to reimagine the mathematical underpinnings of reality, replacing rigid symmetries with dynamic musical harmonics. It's a shift from fixed laws to a living, resonating system.
And integrating the observer as an active shaper of reality.
That's a profound shift. It implies your perception isn't just reflecting reality, but actively contributing to its manifestation and stability. It's ontology, not just physics.
Okay, so coherence creates dimensions, harmonics govern interactions, observers actively modulate. How does this all come together? UCTE offers the meta-operator as the grand orchestrator.
The unifying structure.
Exactly. The meta-operator, min, unifies the effects of the coherence tensor, symmetry enhancement, and the observer tensor, asymmetry modulation, into a singular governing structure.
The master equation, bringing together the universe's tendency towards coherence and our conscious interaction with it.
And the equation itself looks simple. Min, key plus omen. Coherence tensor plus observer tensor. But the implications are huge.
The ontological roles are critical. It unifies dimensional field coherence, holding the structure dimensions together. It unifies observer resonance, describing how our observation resonates with and influences the field.
Creating feedback loops.
Yes, and maybe most astonishingly, it unifies intelligence and intentionality as structuring fields.
Meaning conscious thought, purpose, intention. They're not separate from physics. They actively shape the field.
That's what UCTE suggests. They are fundamental forces represented by these tensors, structuring the coherence field.
And at our stabilized 3+1 layer, the meta-operator enables some remarkable things, like experiential coherence, the emergence of qualia.
Qualia, the subjective feel of experience, redness, pain.
Yes. UCTE proposes the meta-operator allows these subjective experiences to emerge from the objective field, bridging the hard problem of consciousness.
That's a massive claim.
It is. It also enables energetic asymmetry shaping via field intentions, implying our intentions can shape energy distribution and field dynamics.
A direct mind-over-matter link, essentially.
In this framework, yes. And it governs temporal evolution as a narrative projection from multi-vector harmonics, orchestrating our coherent experience of time as a story.
And the significance for 3+1 emergence itself. UCTE interprets our 3+1 reality as a first-order observer tensor collapse, the simplest coherence resonance structure capable of sustaining observation and memory.
So 3+1 isn't just stable, it's the simplest stable structure that allows consciousness, observation, and memory to exist.
That's the idea. If we connect this to the bigger picture for you, the listener, the meta-operator is the ultimate conceptual tool in UCTE. It shows how reality structure, our subjective experience, and even our intentions are inextricably linked through coherence.
A unification of physics and consciousness.
Exactly. Suggesting consciousness isn't an afterthought, but a fundamental structuring principle. This detailed view provides you with a sense of the comprehensive nature of UCTE.
So after exploring all these intricacies, what does this all truly mean? Why is our 3+1 reality this specific way? What's its purpose, if any, in the grand scheme of the coherence field?
UCTE offers a powerful answer, moving beyond just mechanism.
The theory powerfully reiterates that our 3+1 dimensional configuration is no longer to be seen as an arbitrary fact, a mathematical convenience, or an anthropic inevitability.
It's not just luck, or because we're here.
Right. Instead, it is precisely a resonance threshold, the first stabilized layer of an infinite hyperdimensional coherence field. The first point where the universe could achieve stable self-organization.
And UCTE puts forth an incredibly profound statement. Our 3+1 reality is the lowest level functional substrate of sentient projection where the universe becomes capable of self-reflection.
Wow. The lowest level.
Right.
The minimum requirement for the universe to become self-aware.
That's the implication. This configuration isn't just suitable for life and consciousness. It's the essential foundation for conscious, self-aware entities to manifest. The simplest coherent structure permitting self-awareness.
And the source details the specific conditions that converge for this 3+1 stabilization. First, gravity becomes coherent via inverse square hypergravity scaling. Our familiar gravity law locks in.
Stabilizing the large-scale universe.
Then electromagnetism becomes stable, allowing atoms, chemistry, light, the basis of matter.
Essential for structure.
Crucially, time condenses into a dominant resonance eigenmode, solidifying our singular flow, TC38 our time dv, providing the framework for causality and memory.
The narrative structure emerges.
All those fundamental constants like C so stabilize, fixing the laws of physics.
Providing a consistent rule set.
And finally, as a direct consequence, life, complexity, and meaning become possible.
A truly magnificent convergence of conditions. It's not just what works, it's specifically what allows observation, memory, structure, and evolution.
This brings us back full circle to the truly active role of the observer. UCTE states unequivocally, the observer is not external to this process. The observer is the collapse, the asymmetry, the initiator of stabilization.
We aren't just passive recipients. Our consciousness is a dynamic force, actively participating.
Exactly. The observer is modeled as that tensor field within the meta-operator, mean plus one, shaping reality through resonance, selectivity, and stabilization. Our attention, choices, presence select and stabilize specific manifestations.
Where coherence and observation interweave, reality becomes structured.
And this leads to the truly mind-bending conclusion. The 3+1 layer is thus not only what permits the observer, it is what the observer emerges through.
So we don't just exist in 3+1 dimensions. Our existence is intertwined with and co-creative of their emergence and stabilization.
That's the implication. We are the universe observing itself into existence.
This raises an important question for you, the listener. If our very existence as observers is foundational to the stability of 3+1 dimensions, it suggests a universe that is intrinsically participatory. You are not merely observing reality. In a very real and fundamental sense, you are co-creating it.
That completely reframes our place in the cosmos, from passive spectators to active, integral participants.
It's a truly humbling and empowering thought.
Okay, UCTE's insights don't just stop at dimensions and time. They offer profound consequences for mysteries in quantum mechanics and cosmology, too. It presents a unified view across scales. For instance, it posits that quantum coherence is stabilized by multivector temporal alignment.
Providing an explanation for why quantum states can persist, even briefly, those aligned temporal axes give them a backbone.
Exactly. It elegantly explains something often hard to grasp in traditional frameworks.
And at the largest scales. Inflation and dark energy reflect bursts or background flows of hyperdimensional coherence.
So the universe's expansion dynamics are linked to the coherence field's activity, not just mysterious extra stuff.
Right. It connects these cosmic phenomena directly to the dynamics of the underlying coherence field from higher dimensions, a generative explanation.
We also gain deeper understanding of processes like memory. Temporal solitons encode memory, stability, and self-similar behavior.
Tying their persistent nature to information storage, system integrity, and repeating patterns across scales.
And profoundly, biological life is a standing wave of coherence within this dimensional plateau.
Light as a stable, resonant pattern in the coherence field, not just chemistry, but coherent dynamics.
That's the picture it paints. An intricately coherent pattern, constantly maintained by the flow of coherence.
The implications are remarkable. UCTE elegantly ties together quantum phenomena, cosmic expansion, memory, even life, all under the umbrella of emergent coherence. For you, the listener, it offers a single, detailed, interconnected framework.
A coherent narrative linking the smallest scales to the largest, all from the same principles.
It's a breathtakingly holistic view of reality.
Thus, UCTE reiterates its core principle. Coherence is not what fills space-time, it is what generates it.
The ultimate generative force.
This theory truly marks a new paradigm. We move beyond physics as measurement and enter physics as metastructuring, a discipline of coherence, resonance, and recursive emergence.
It's not just about quantifying what is, but understanding how everything comes to be, how it's interconnected, how it self-organizes.
Thinking about physics as understanding a dynamic, living, self-generating cosmos.
A shift from a universe that is to one that is continually becoming, with consciousness playing a fundamental role.
So after this deep dive into Philip Randolph Lillian's unified coherence theory of everything, what does all this truly mean for you, living in this intricately structured, dynamically emergent reality? We've covered a tremendous amount today. Let's briefly reiterate this central message. Our familiar 3+1 dimensional structure is not an arbitrary given. It's not an accident.
It's a dynamically chosen, stable resonance basin within that infinite hyperdimensional coherence field.
A specific, robust manifestation, stabilized from a vast ocean of potential realities. It is, as the source beautifully puts it, the first resolution of the infinite into the coherent. It's the ontological chord on which the music of reality begins to play.
Like the first stable, resonant chords struck from an infinite instrument, allowing all subsequent complexity to unfold.
The fundamental harmony from which existence arises. And to leave you with a truly provocative thought, something to mull over, consider this powerful statement from the source material itself. We do not live in 3+1 dimensions. We live as a resonance of them. Take a moment right now to reflect on that. If our reality is an emergent resonance, and if your own consciousness is an active participant in this continuous emergence, how might that change your perception?
How might it deepen your questions about existence, about your role in shaping the reality you inhabit?
This theory doesn't just offer new answers. It invites you to look at your world with new eyes, to listen for its underlying harmonies, and to ask even deeper questions about the fundamental nature of being.